Why do so many men feel powerless, trapped by others, constantly broken by insults, betrayal, or rejection? Today, we solve that problem the Machiavellian way, by making you untouchable, unbreakable, unstoppable. You believe the world has conspired to hold you back. You think your enemies are the ones who keep you small, that society conspires against you, that powerful men sit in high towers, deciding your fate. You imagine that your chains are forged by others, your family, your rivals, your boss, your critics, even your so-called friends. You whisper to yourself, if only they would move out of the way, if only they would give me a chance, I could finally rise. But here is the bitter truth, no one holds you back. The chains you feel around your neck and wrists are not theirs, they are yours. You built them. You accepted them. You polished them with your own hands and wrapped them tightly around your body, mistaking them for the natural order of life. Look carefully at how people live. A man avoids speaking his mind because he fears he will be mocked. A woman obeys the expectations of her family, though her heart burns with ambition. The worker toils day after day, chained by the belief that he is powerless to rise beyond his master. They all claim they are trapped by others. Yet if you strip away the excuses, you see a single truth. They are trapped only because they choose safety over danger, comfort over greatness, obedience over risk. The illusion of chains is the greatest trick the world has ever played on you. No ruler, no tyrant, no enemy can enslave you fully unless you first enslave yourself. It is not the hand of your master that keeps you kneeling. It is the voice inside your head that whispers, stay down. Do not fight. Do not risk. Do not lose. That voice is the jailer, and most men spend their entire lives obeying it. Understand this, every time you blame others for your lack of progress, you tighten the rope around your own neck. You say, my boss holds me back, my friends betray me, my family does not support me. But what are you really confessing? That you are powerless, that you are weak, that you have surrendered the throne of your life to others. Machiavelli would tell you if someone has power over you, it is because you handed it to them. And like a prisoner who mistakes the lock for iron, you fail to see that it was made of paper all along. Ask yourself, what is stopping you? Is it really the enemy outside your walls, or the fear within your chest? Is it truly your rival, or your own hesitation? You will discover that most obstacles are shadows, phantoms of your own creation. You fear rejection, so you never dare to ask. You fear betrayal, so you never dare to trust. You fear failure, so you never dare to begin. And in your fear, you claim that the world holds you back, when in truth it is you who kneel before your invisible chains. Even kings fall victim to this illusion. I have seen rulers tremble before advisors, afraid to act because they might lose favor with the crowd. I have seen generals hesitate on the battlefield, not because the enemy was stronger, but because they doubted their own strength. Power does not collapse when attacked. It collapses when its owner convinces himself it is fragile. The greatest prison is not guarded by soldiers or locked by gates. It is the mind that convinces itself that freedom is impossible. There are men who spend years saying, if I had more support, I would succeed. If I had fewer enemies, I would advance. If the world gave me a fair chance, I would rise. These men grow old with their excuses. They die clinging to the belief that they were victims of others, never realizing that the true enemy sat within them all along. Meanwhile, a rarer kind of man tears off the mask and sees the truth. He realizes that the chain only exists because he allows it. And in that moment, the illusion shatters. You must understand weakness attracts chains. The world tests you not because it is cruel, but because it must know if you deserve power. Every rival, every betrayal, every rejection. These are not barriers, they are questions. And the question is always the same: will you bow? Will you obey? Will you accept the chain, or will you break it? Most men bow. A few refuse, and those few rise higher than the rest, for the world does not reward the obedient, it rewards the ruthless. You were not born with chains. They were taught to you. From childhood you were told to obey, to please, to stay small, to avoid offending, Teachers, parents, society, all dressed in fine clothing, all pretending to guide you, but in truth shaping you into a servant. And because you trusted them, you believed them. You thought, this is how life works. I must wait for permission. I must walk carefully. I must not disrupt. And so, you became your own captor. But once you see the illusion, once you admit that no one truly holds you back except yourself, the world changes. Suddenly the master loses his power, for you realize he never had any. The critic's words fall silent, for you recognize they were only noise. The rival becomes nothing more than a shadow on the wall, easily ignored, easily passed. The illusion fades, and what remains is choice. When men hear the word ruthless, they recoil. They imagine cruelty, mercilessness, and blood dripping from the hands of tyrants. But you must free yourself from childish illusions. Ruthlessness is not savagery, it is clarity. It is the refusal to cling to illusions, to false loyalties, to weaknesses that drain you of power. To be unstoppable, you must be ruthless with yourself first, and then with the world. Think of the man who refuses to let go of those who betray him. He calls it loyalty. He calls it patience. He tells himself that forgiveness is noble. But look closer. What is this forgiveness if not fear? Fear of standing alone. Fear of breaking bonds. Fear of being hated. Such a man wraps himself in weakness, pretending it is virtue. He is not strong, he is chained. Now consider the one who is ruthless. He cuts ties when they rot. He abandons the friend who poisons his spirit. He silences the critic who seeks only to diminish him. He turns cold when warmth is used against him. Ruthlessness does not make him a monster. It makes him free. The ruthless man knows that the greatest chains are not iron, but obligation, guilt, and the desperate need for approval. You believe kindness will protect you. You believe loyalty will be repaid. You believe that if you are patient, the world will reward you. These are illusions crafted to keep you soft. In truth, kindness without strength is weakness. Loyalty to the unworthy is slavery. Patience with the disloyal is self-destruction. You must learn to kill these illusions before they kill you. Ruthlessness is the sword that cuts the rope. When a relationship binds you but no longer strengthens you, you cut. When a habit comforts you but rots your potential, you cut. When a dream belongs not to you but to the expectations of others, you cut. Each act of cutting appears harsh, but it is in truth an act of liberation. For every rope you sever, another chain falls from your neck. Understand this: power requires clarity, and clarity requires ruthlessness. A prince who hesitates to remove a traitor loses his throne. A leader who fears to punish betrayal will be consumed by it. And an ordinary man who clings to those who weaken him will never rise above the common crowd. Ruthless do not waste time on sentiment when power is at stake. They act swiftly and without hesitation because they know that mercy to the corrupt is cruelty to themselves. Even within yourself, ruthlessness is the only path to strength. Do you think greatness is achieved by indulging every weakness, every comfort, every excuse? No. You must look at yourself as a general looks at his army. When a soldier is weak, he is trained. When a soldier is disloyal, he is punished. When a soldier refuses to fight, he is removed. You must command yourself with the same cold discipline. Cut away your laziness, your cowardice, your dependence on the approval of others. Be ruthless with your own excuses, for they are traitors disguised as friends. The world is filled with those who demand your time, your loyalty, your attention. They do not love you, they love the benefits they gain from you. They drain your energy, distract your purpose, and keep you small because it serves their comfort. To free yourself, you must be willing to disappoint them, to anger them, to break from them. Do not be afraid when they call you cold, heartless, or selfish. They call you selfish only because you no longer serve their interests. They call you heartless only because they can no longer control your heart. Do you know why most men never rise? Because they would rather remain liked than powerful. They fear being called ruthless, and so they betray themselves in order to appear gentle. But history is not written by the gentle. It is written by those who had the courage to do what others would not, to sever ties others were too weak to cut, to make decisions others feared to make. Examine your life, and you will see how many of your chains exist because you refuse to be ruthless. You stay in friendships that drain you because you do not wish to seem cruel. You obey traditions that suffocate you because you fear offending others. You silence your true ambition because you fear envy. Every step you take to protect their feelings is a step away from your own power. This is why ruthlessness is necessary. It is not the destruction of others. It is the destruction of your own illusions. When you stop clinging, you begin to rise. When you stop begging for loyalty, you discover who stands with you willingly. When you stop softening your edges, you finally become sharp enough to cut through the obstacles before you. Ruthlessness is not a mask. It is the stripping away of masks. It is the revelation of what is true, of who is useful, of what is necessary. And when you live by this clarity, you discover that nothing can stop you, for nothing unnecessary remains to weigh you down. A man who cannot command himself is unfit to command anyone else. Power begins not with armies, not with wealth, not with allies, but with the iron grip you hold over your own mind. Those who fail to master themselves are like castles without walls, impressive from a distance, but vulnerable to the first strike. The greatest victories are not won on the battlefield, but within the silent war of your thoughts, impulses, and fears. If you lose that war, all other victories will crumble. Consider the man who rises quickly in wealth, but cannot master his hunger for indulgence. He becomes fat, careless, and wasteful. His riches vanish, and his enemies mock him. Consider the general who inspires loyalty, but cannot control his temper. In one moment of rage, he alienates his soldiers, and his empire falls. Or the lover who has charm and beauty, no mastery over desire. He becomes a slave to pleasure, and in time, pleasure destroys him. Do you see? Power that is not rooted in self-mastery is a palace built on sand. It looks strong until the first storm arrives, and then it collapses. Self-mastery is not a gentle art, it is a ruthless discipline. To control your mind, you must treat it as both a servant and a soldier. As a servant, it must obey you, not wander off into weakness. As a soldier, it must be trained daily, hardened through trial, prepared for war. Most men allow their minds to rule them, chasing every impulse, fearing every threat, obeying every emotion. They are like kings who have been dethroned in their own kingdoms. They do not command, they are commanded. Look closely at how most people live. A harsh word is spoken against them, and they collapse into despair. A temptation appears before them, and they indulge without resistance. Fear whispers in their ear, and they obey like trained dogs. They tell themselves that these reactions are natural, that they cannot help it. But that is the excuse of slaves. A man who says he cannot control himself has already declared his defeat. Self-mastery begins with understanding that your emotions are tools, not masters. Anger can be used to fuel determination, but if left ungoverned, it burns your empire to ashes. Fear can be used as caution, but if indulged, it becomes a prison. Desire can be used to build ambition, but if uncontrolled, it chains you to vice. Every emotion is a blade. It can protect you or cut your throat. The weak allow their blades to turn against them. The strong seize the hilt and wield it with precision. You must learn to be suspicious of your own impulses. When you feel rage, ask if it serves you or betrays you. When you feel fear, ask if it warns you or weakens you. When you feel desire, ask if it sharpens your will or makes you a slave. In this constant questioning, you begin to master yourself. Discipline is born not from denying emotion, but from ruling it. The ruler who indulges every emotion is no ruler at all. He is a fool on a throne, waiting for his kingdom to collapse. Think of the strongest fortress. Its gates are closed, its walls high, its guards vigilant. This is what your mind must become. If every insult penetrates you, if every temptation seduces you, if every fear paralyzes you, then you are exposed, naked, and vulnerable to the world. If you train your mind to resist, to remain calm when others panic, to stay firm when others beg, to stand cold when others grow soft, then you become impenetrable. You cannot be broken Because the enemy finds no weakness inside. Mastery of self is also mastery of time. The weak squander their hours in distraction, amusement, and comfort. The strong govern their time as a king governs gold, spending it only on what builds strength, influence, and dominion. Each wasted hour is a coin given to your enemy. Each disciplined hour is a weapon forged for your future. Most men live as beggars of time, while the master of himself is its owner. There is a reason why history remembers men who lived with discipline. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher, wrote daily to command his own mind before he commanded an empire. Alexander the Great trained his body and mind relentlessly, refusing softness, because he knew indulgence would make him weak long before any enemy could. Even Machiavelli himself warned rulers that indulgence, luxury, and unchecked desire would rot their authority from within. Power does not fall to the one who feels the most. It falls to the one who controls the most. You must see yourself as both ruler and subject. As ruler, you decide what is worthy of your attention, what is worthy of your energy, what is worthy of your emotions. As subject, you obey your own commands without question. If you say you will wake early, you must obey. If you say you will endure hardship, you must endure. If you say you will resist temptation, you must resist. Every act of obedience to yourself strengthens your throne. Every act of disobedience weakens it. In the end, self-mastery is the foundation of freedom. The man who cannot command himself is the easiest slave for others to control. The man who governs himself is impossible to break. Others may plot against him, betray him, or tempt him, but they will find their efforts wasted. For he is a fortress with no cracks, a ruler with no rebellion, a master with no traitors inside his walls. Fear is the invisible rope by which men are led. It is the leash placed around their necks, tugged by rulers, enemies, and even friends. It is the soft whisper that says, "Do not move forward, for you may stumble. Do not speak, for you may be ridiculed. Do not fight, for you may lose." Fear does not shout, it whispers. And those whispers shape lives more than armies ever could. Understand this. Most men are not defeated by their enemies. They are defeated by the fear of their enemies. Look around you, and you will see how fear governs nearly every decision. A man does not pursue his ambition because he fears failure. A woman does not speak her truth because she fears rejection. Workers bow to masters not because the masters are strong, but because they fear losing their comfort. Rulers themselves hesitate, fearing the judgment of their people or the wrath of rivals. Fear poisons kings as easily as peasants, and its chains are invisible, which is why they are the hardest to break. Do not mistake fear for reality. Fear is a shadow, a distortion of truth. It shows you the possibility of pain and magnifies it until it feels certain. You fear being mocked. Mockery cannot kill you. You fear losing wealth, though wealth can be regained. You fear betrayal, though betrayal is a natural law of human dealings. Fear turns small risks into looming giants. It convinces you that the battlefield is already lost, even before you have drawn your sword. The cruel genius of fear is that it disguises itself as wisdom. When you hesitate, you tell yourself, "I am being careful. I am being cautious. I am avoiding danger." But in truth, you are bowing to fear. Caution is useful only when it sharpens action, not when it paralyzes it. Fear convinces men that their cowardice is prudence. And so they live their lives as slaves, while telling themselves they are wise. Think of the rulers of old. A prince who fears losing his throne will never act boldly, and in his hesitation, his rivals strike. A general who fears defeat will retreat before the battle even begins, and in retreat his men lose heart. Even the richest merchant may live as a beggar, because fear of losing his wealth stops him from using it to build greater power. The lesson is clear: those who fear loss are already conquered. You must face this truth: fear will never disappear. To demand a life without fear is to demand a world without storms. But storms cannot be eliminated, they can only be endured. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of fear. It is the ability to act while fear claws at your chest, to move forward while your mind screams to turn back. The man who waits until fear is gone will wait forever. The man who walks forward despite fear becomes unstoppable. How do you break fear's grip? First, by exposing it. Speak the fear aloud. Name it. Drag it from the shadows where it thrives. When fear remains hidden, it grows. When it is named, it weakens. Say to yourself, I fear betrayal. Then ask, what if I am betrayed? You will see that betrayal, though painful, cannot destroy you if you are prepared. Say, I fear rejection. Then ask, what happens if they reject me? You will find that rejection is nothing more than a bruise, not a fatal wound. Each time you expose fear, you see that it is smaller than it pretends to be. Next, you must confront fear directly. Avoidance feeds it. The longer you delay facing what terrifies you, the larger it becomes. The man who fears speaking and remains silent grows more silent by the day. The one who fears failure and never begins ensures his failure is permanent. The only way to shrink fear is to act against it. When you confront it, you discover it was hollow. The lion in your mind was only a shadow on the wall. Understand this: fear is the tool of those who wish to control you. Rulers spread fear of enemies to keep their people obedient. Rivals spread fear of humiliation to keep you silent. Even loved ones spread fear of disappointment to keep you in line. If you accept their fear, you kneel before them. If you reject it, they lose their grip on you. The one who fears nothing cannot be enslaved, because he has already accepted loss, pain, and solitude. Imagine yourself as a fortress. If fear rules your heart, every enemy has the key to your gates. They need only whisper the right words, and you crumble. But if you have broken fear's grip, the gates remain closed, the walls remain strong. You are untouchable, not because danger has disappeared, but because you no longer bow to it. The greatest victories in history were won not by those who were fearless, but by those who moved while afraid. Julius Caesar feared the consequences of crossing the Rubicon, but he crossed. Alexander the Great feared defeat, but he marched into Persia. Even the men who shaped ideas feared ridicule, yet they spoke. Their greatness was born not in the absence of fear, but in its defiance. And here lies the dark truth: when you break fear's grip, others will fear you. They will not understand how you act boldly while they hesitate, how you speak truths while they remain silent, how you rise while they remain chained. Fear is the leash that tames men. When you cut it, you no longer walk among the tamed. You walk among predators, and predators, whether kings or commoners, are respected. Most men curse the presence of enemies. They see opposition as a wall blocking their path, a storm sent to destroy them, a curse placed upon their lives. They complain, they retreat, they drown themselves in bitterness. Yet the wise man, the ruthless man, the Machiavellian man, knows the truth. Enemies are not curses, they are weapons. Obstacles are not walls, they are ladders. Opposition is not the end of your rise. It is the very fuel that makes it possible. Think of this: when a rival slanders you, he sharpens your skill at defending yourself. He forces you to become more cunning, more persuasive, more alert. When a traitor deceives you, he teaches you the value of vigilance. He strengthens your ability to read men's hearts. When critics mock you, they gift you the opportunity to grow a skin so thick that no insult can pierce it again. Every enemy you face, every obstacle that rises, is a forge. And in that forge, your weaknesses are burned away, leaving only tempered steel. Weak men run from their opposition. They complain of unfairness, of betrayal, of cruelty. They spend their days hoping for an easier world, a kinder audience, a gentler fate. But ease is the enemy of greatness. Comfort never created strength. It is struggle, resistance, and opposition that carve out the men history remembers. Without enemies, you remain soft. Without opposition, you remain untested. Without resistance, you remain ordinary. You must learn to thank your enemies silently, for they do the work that friends cannot. Friends comfort you, but enemies sharpen you. Friends protect your feelings, but enemies expose your weaknesses. Friends may carry you, but enemies force you to stand on your own. It is the resistance of the enemy that makes the sword sharp, and it is the enemy's pressure that makes you strong enough to be unstoppable. Consider the generals of history. A weak general sees a stronger enemy and trembles. A wise general sees a stronger enemy and grows sharper, more strategic, more creative. It is the enemy who forces him to adapt, to stretch his mind beyond comfort, to become something greater than he was yesterday. The greatest victories are never won against easy opponents, but against those who seemed impossible to defeat. Your enemy is your trainer, disguised as your destroyer. This is why you must never fear opposition. When people turn against you, when rivals plot your downfall, when critics laugh at your failure, do not retreat into despair. Ask yourself, how can I turn their attack into my strength? How can their hatred become my shield? How can their resistance be transformed into my advantage? For the Machiavellian knows that the weapon thrown against him can be seized and wielded back with twice the force. Imagine a ruler whose enemies spread rumors about his cruelty. If he is wise, he does not waste energy begging for a softer reputation. He leans into the perception, making his enemies fear him more until their own words build his authority. Imagine a merchant mocked for being too bold. If he is clever, he uses that boldness to strike opportunities his timid rivals are too cautious to touch. Imagine a man insulted publicly. If he has mastery, he does not break. He laughs, and the insult loses its sting, while his strength multiplies in the eyes of all who watch. Opposition is the great revealer. It shows you who you are. If an enemy's insult can shatter you, you are already weak. If a rival's success makes you bitter, you are already insecure. If betrayal breaks your trust forever, you are already naive. Opposition strips away your illusions and forces you to see the raw truth of yourself. It hurts, but in that pain is transformation. For once you see your weakness clearly, you can no longer deny it. You must either destroy it or let it destroy you. Do not forget, power is not built in silence, it is built in conflict. Every empire rose because its ruler faced enemies and overcame them. Every legacy was carved out of the resistance of those who tried to prevent it. Those who avoided opposition were forgotten, for they lived and died in the shadows of comfort. Only those who faced resistance, endured hatred, and fought against obstacles left their names carved into stone. You must shift your view. Opposition is not the enemy. It is the path. Without the rival who blocks you, you would never discover how strong you are. Without betrayal, you would never learn vigilance. Without humiliation, you would never grow thick skin. Without resistance, you would never be forced to rise beyond ordinary limits. What others see as curses, you must see as gifts. There will be those who despise you simply because you rise. Their hatred is proof of your power. There will be those who attack you, not because you are weak, but because you remind them of what they cannot be. Their resistance is proof that you are moving where they cannot follow. When they try to break you, let their blows become the hammer that forges you. When they block your path, let their walls become the foundation you climb upon. When they curse your name, let their voices spread your legend. The wise man knows this. Opposition is inevitable. You cannot live without it. But you can choose what it means. To the weak, it is a prison. To the strong, it is a weapon. To the ordinary, it is despair. To the Machiavellian, it is destiny. There is a level of power so rare that few ever glimpse it, let alone achieve it. It is not found in gold, nor in armies, nor in the applause of the crowd. It is the state of being untouchable. Imagine living in such a way that betrayal cannot wound you, rejection cannot weaken you, loss cannot destroy you. Imagine moving through life with a fortress built not of stone, but of your own mind, your own strength, your own self-reliance. That is the untouchable state, and it is the highest form of freedom. The world thrives on control. Enemies control you with threats. Friends control you with expectations. Society controls you with approval and shame. Even your own desires control you, pulling you like a puppet toward comfort, distraction, and weakness. Most people never question this. They live as marionettes, strings pulled from every direction. They spend their lives fearing the day someone cuts them off, turns on them, abandons them. They live trembling, terrified of losing what they depend on. Such people are fragile, breakable, destined to remain in chains. But the one who becomes untouchable breaks those strings. He sees that every form of dependence is a trap, and he begins cutting one by one. He does not beg for validation, because his worth is not built on the opinions of others. He does not beg for loyalty, because he expects betrayal as a natural part of human dealings. He does not cling to comfort, because he has trained himself to thrive in hardship, and because of this, he cannot be broken. Consider how most men collapse when insulted. Their identity depends on being respected, and when someone mocks them, their sense of self shatters. The untouchable man is immune to this. He knows that words cannot strip him of power, because his worth does not rest in the mouths of others. Consider how most men collapse when abandoned by friends or lovers. Their spirit depends on companionship, and when it is withdrawn, they crumble into despair. The untouchable man is immune to this. He walks alone if necessary, because he has made himself whole without needing others to complete him. Consider how most men collapse when they lose wealth or status. They were defined by their possessions, their rank, their prestige. When stripped away, they become nothing. But the untouchable man remains steady, because his strength is not stored in what can be taken. It is stored in who he has become. This state is not reached by accident. It requires the discipline of a soldier, the clarity of a ruler, and the ruthlessness of one who refuses illusion. To become untouchable, you must first strip yourself of dependence. Every time you rely on another for your happiness, for your confidence, for your sense of identity, you place a weapon in their hand. And sooner or later, they will use it against you. The untouchable man refuses this. He takes back every weapon, every chain, every leash. He sharpens himself until nothing remains that can be exploited. The world despises this kind of man. Why? Because he cannot be manipulated. He cannot be bribed with approval. He cannot be silenced with shame. He cannot be broken with rejection. He cannot be controlled with fear. He is immune to the games that enslave others, and so the world calls him cold, heartless, even dangerous. But in truth, he is free. He has built within himself a throne that no enemy can topple, a fortress no traitor can infiltrate, a strength no hardship can weaken. This is why the untouchable state is feared. For when you reach it, you rise above ordinary men. You no longer chase applause, you command respect. You no longer beg for loyalty, you command fear. You no longer fear loss, for you have accepted it as the price of living. And in that acceptance, you find a power no thief can steal, no rival can corrupt, no enemy can destroy. History's strongest figures were those who reached this state. They did not crumble when betrayed, for they expected betrayal. They did not collapse when wealth was lost, for they knew wealth is nothing but dust. They did not tremble at insults, for they knew words cannot pierce steel. They moved like storms across the earth, untouchable, unbreakable, unstoppable. And the world could do nothing but bow before them, for no weapon of manipulation could penetrate their armor. You must understand, the untouchable state is not the absence of pain. You will still be insulted, betrayed, rejected, opposed. But while others bleed from these wounds, you will walk forward untouched. Pain will come, but it will not control you. Hardship will come, but it will not break you. Loss will come, but it will not define you. You will stand above it all as the master of yourself, as a fortress among ruins. Conclusion. And so, we return to the truth most men refuse to face. Nobody can truly hold you back, break you, or stop you, unless you grant them the power to do so. Your chains are not forged by your enemies, but by your own dependence on their approval, their loyalty, their comfort. The moment you cut those chains, you step into a realm most will never know. The weak beg for acceptance, while the powerful command it. The fragile cry when betrayed, while the untouchable expect it and move forward. The ordinary man is terrified of loss, while the ruthless mind sees loss as nothing but another test of strength. What makes you unstoppable is not what you own, nor who stands beside you. It is the discipline to rule yourself, to sharpen your mind, to build an inner fortress no one can storm. You must decide what kind of man you will be. a servant of the world's manipulations, swayed by every insult, chained by every rejection, or a ruler of yourself, untouchable, unbreakable, feared not because you are cruel, but because you cannot be controlled. The choice is yours. Power does not wait. And those who hesitate will remain trapped in the games of the weak, while those who embrace the ruthless truth will rise above them all.